Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Needens. I'm a social worker with the Cognitive Care Network at KU Alzheimer's Disease Center. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about strategies to enjoy, recognize, manage, kind of navigate the holidays. We know that that comes with lots of feelings, challenges, logistical issues. It harkens to a number of thoughts and elements of history. And so we're going to talk about briefly about some of that. And I start with a quote from the book, the Polar Express. Seeing is believing, but sometimes the most real things in the world are the things that we can't see. Why do I start with that? I start with that because our minds always need to go to the most central elements of for that of which we move forward. So when we think about the holidays, we think about the true intent, the true value, what we enjoy, what we expect to get out of that as we consider these next accommodations. If you're struggling with a cognitive disorder, mild cognitive impairment, early Alzheimer's and the like, we have talked about in past Mindful Minutes that there are things that we have to navigate around. Some of these may affect some of you, some not so much, depends on diagnosis. But most of you may be facing some short-term memory issues. Some of you may find that multitasking is a bit more challenging. Some of you may find procedural memory can become difficult, i.e. Keeping track of where you are, the order of doing things, for example, with the computer or with a recipe, etc. Anxiety and depression can be a part of your experience. And as it very much specifically relates to holidays, sometimes our minds get trapped with the idea of tradition and expectations. And that is not to say that traditions are not valuable. That is not to say traditions shouldn't play a role. But again, going back to the earlier quote, we must keep our minds focused on the heart and intent and value and joy we find in the holidays. And that may mean that traditions look new, that something has changed. That may mean that we change things up and they are different. What it doesn't mean is that they have to be less meaningful in some way. So here's some key considerations. We're going to walk through all of these. We may need to adjust size of events or pay attention to it. We may need to adjust or think about, calculate constellation of events. We may need to think about, adjust duration of events or activities. We may need to consider our own level of responsibility. And does that make sense, or does that reduce in some way our experience of the holidays and how we manage anxiety and depression? So let's start with size of events. Most people that are struggling with some cognitive changes would say that events that are smaller in size are better. So that may be something that you consider. Having a full house, 50 people over to your house for an event may be overwhelming. For many, again, it can be different. That, you know, there are people that you truly want to see, that you value. There are those perhaps can be seen at other times in other ways. I have seen families who have set up come and go extended kind of reception events with some crossover for an afternoon, so not everybody's there all at the same time. I have seen families successfully adjust events over the course of days. So rather than one big event with all the family members, that you're enjoying your visitors rather singularly or in small sets over time. certainly can be on alternate days. You may have, we all may celebrate different kinds of holidays. Some inherently are over days, some single days, but they can be on alternative days. They don't have to be the day of. And then lastly, I have lots of conversations with people about decorating for the holiday. If you are a person that puts up a Christmas tree, for example, or if you have holidays with other decorations, is it worth it? Is it worth getting out all the decorations and china and whatever else has come with your holidays in your tradition? The answer is not automatically no. I am telling you, you have permission for the answer to be no. But the answer may be yes with some accommodations. I think the answer is born with what brings you some sense of peace and joy. And if those decorations bring you joy, bring you happiness, makes you feel good, harkens back to days of that you truly value, there's a way to do that. It doesn't have to be the huge tree, for example. It could be a smaller tree. It could be a tree with friends and family helping, etc. But again, it might be an event with lots of people assisting versus accepting the no. If the no is coming because, gosh, I really never really liked it and I don't really feel I get happiness just going over to other people's homes that are decorated, or driving, through light displays or whatever it is, I really don't want to do the work that I've done in the past, absolutely fine. But again, I want you to contemplate your heart and the element of joy. And where there's a will, there's a way. If the answer is the decorations are meaningful. Constellation of events may need to be altered a little bit. You may want to include people that know of your diagnosis, that you don't feel the weight of trying to hide something or have that performance anxiety attached to saying something wrong in some way, missing a word, even though none of those things are very significant in terms of interactions with people. But if it adds anxiety to you, it's meaningful. And I would include people that know of your diagnosis so you don't have that weight on your shoulders. Consider a structured activity that fits for you. And that can look lots of ways. It doesn't have to look like big family events with other people's in-laws and et cetera, can be having, a kid and their family come over to watch a holiday movie or to attend a concert where there's little expectation from you other than meeting them at the event and listening to the concert and enjoying that together. Asking the children perform for you. Sometimes, engaging grandchildren can look different. And so if they play a musical instrument, to ask them, to perform, or ask them to read a holiday book to you, or, considering that, which adds structure and connection with those grandchildren, even without some of the informality and the largeness of all the kids running around. Consider a picture activity, having people, whether it be grandchildren, friends, children, bring a picture that depicts something around a theme, and perhaps the theme can be favorite vacations, perhaps the theme can be something funny that happened that year. Who knows what the theme could be, whatever fits your family or friends, and to go around the room and tell a story about it. That structure sometimes decreases anxiety about the informality and the carrying a conversation kind of situation. Ensure you have a wing person in unstructured large events. So maybe you've been invited to a large friends party or a corporate party, or a party at a faith community, et cetera, where there'll be lots of people, and many folks who are unfamiliar with your diagnosis. Just have a wing person there with you, to bring up that person's name, or fill in a gap if you get to feeling anxious or struggling with a response. And then think through shopping excursions and giving. Again, it doesn't have to be, I don't want to face the crowds. It really is more about, what do I want to share with this person, and what would that look like? And maybe that's something, that is connected to your heart, that you already have, that you want to give to them. Maybe it's a letter you want to write to them. Maybe it's something you can find online. Maybe it's tackling one person at a time, and that being an event. So really think through that it's not just about a chore, it's really about an experience. And that's what I think about with all the holiday activities. It's when it gets to be a chore, it needs to be either changed or lost. When it is about an experience, that this is a moment and we can find joy in it, then we find a way to do it. Duration matters. Most of you would tell me that there kind of is a timeline where you kind of wear out of energy, where things get a little foggier to you at times. So, I want you to plan and calculate that. That includes if you have family visiting from out of town and staying with you, that is great, but build in time alone, what I call recharging time. That you need to take those naps. Maybe they go out and do something social without you, so that you can do and enjoy them later on in the day. But figure out that recharging kinds of time. If it's an extended event at someone else's home, talk with the host ahead of time to find out key times. I can't make it the entire time, but I certainly want to come by, certainly want to be a part. What would be the best time to be there? And if you have multiple things going on in one day, I discourage that. And for you, it might work. Everybody's different. But again, I hear from many people that it's those back-to-back events that are truly taxing. And the taxing can lead to feeling foggier. The taxing can lead to a bad day the next day. The taxing can contribute to anxiety and depression. So I discourage the back-to-back, one event, one day kind of situation. And if you've got multiple events that you're in control of, or certainly have the opportunity to contribute to a decision about timing, I would try to build out a day in between. So attend a family activity, a day in between, attend a friend activity, etc., to spread out the holidays, but also to keep yourself recharged at all times. And give permission to family members who want to stay. You may have a spouse that says, if you need to leave, I want to leave with you. And that may indeed be how they feel and want, and that may be fine. But it is also something you can give your family by saying, I need, to limit my time there so that I can recharge and continue with holiday activities. You have permission to stay as long as you want, and figure out someone who could drive you home if you're not driving, that kind of thing. Just plan it out. It just has to be managed. It simply doesn't mean compromise or these dichotomies of either attend or not attend. Again, where there's a will, there's a way. Level of responsibility, I think, needs to shift, and shift only because we put so much pressure on ourselves. And that leads to that performance anxiety. It leads to feeling like we can't do and getting lost in some comparison. And so we really need to pay attention to that, and only put on responsibility to ourselves in the most limited amount feasible. So instead of hosting dinner, maybe you host dessert. Maybe you host a hot chocolate bar for your grandchildren where they get to pick from bowls of marshmallows and bowls of chips and whipped cream and all that kind of stuff. That can be fun, and yet doesn't take all the work and the recipes and the planning that a dinner would. Dinners can be potluck. So if you do have a dinner, you don't have to prepare everything. It certainly can be catered. I've seen families who made a decision to have it catered from a grocery store, or restaurant, or whatever. Entirely possible. Family events can be attending activities without anyone having responsibility, like going, to walk through a light display, or attending a concert, or attending a faith community service, or visiting a ice rink and watching people ice skate, or whatever it is. That those activities can happen without anybody having a set of responsibilities. And you can enlist others to help. Maybe that's friends, maybe that's hiring someone. I've seen families who, for dinners that they were inviting friends or family over to, that they hired someone to help them set it up before people arrived, and would come back later to help them clean up. Again, it's about the experience. It's not about who does what, it's just figuring out who does what. And then lastly, really paying attention to the tendency to anxiety and depression, watching out for that comparison of the past, setting our minds on this is a new day, a new experience, a new year, and it can be joyful and it can be positive. And I have something to give. I have a piece of heart and mind and humor that is meaningful to share with others, as they do as well. And that we want to keep that focus rather than all the things that you would have done in the past. Focus on that joy and find a way to make it work. Focus on those things that bring you contentment, that add to that experience, and then be willing to adjust and navigate and accommodate for that to come to some adjusted fruition. Start early and build it in your calendar. Again, if we're going to spread out those events, that can happen month long or even after the holiday. You spread it out in ways that make it work. Really understand what adds stress. What is it that's adding stress? If it's about, I can't keep track of so many things, then some things need to be let go. We need to shift responsibility to another place. There may be things that are less important to you. So really understand what it is that adds stress. If it's procedural kinds of memory stuff, there may be external cues that can be built in. There can be assistance that's given. As we just talked about, events may look different. Seasonal depression is real. Some of you face that. Some of you cope better in the springtime and the summertime when you're outside working in your yards or have a different set of activities, traveling, etc. So we understand the seasonal depression is real. Stay open with your family, provider, and other support people in life. Maybe there's something that needs to be discussed and worked on. Maybe there's medication adjustments that need to be considered, but stay open about it. And let's figure out strategies to accommodate so that it doesn't worsen beyond what it needs to. As always, if there are questions, concerns that arise as part of this discussion, please do not hesitate to reach out to us here at the ADC. Thank you, and we will see you again.